What if I told you that the key to unlocking financial overflow has been in front of you all along? Not hidden in a secret formula, not buried in years of struggle, but written in a single verse of Scripture. Imagine discovering that the door to abundance is not locked. It's simply waiting for you to speak the word that opens it. Lucky is one of the most powerful verses in the Bible concerning abundance and divine provision, and it holds within it a spiritual key that can transform the way you look at life, finances, and blessings. The verse says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye mete withal it shall be measured to you again." At first glance, it looks simple, a call to generosity, but when you begin to meditate on it deeply, you see that it is more than instruction, it is a divine law. A principle woven into the fabric of creation, a reminder that what we release into the world comes back to us multiplied. The power of this verse lies in its promise and in the certainty of its result. It does not say, "Maybe it will be given back," or "It might return to you." It says with confidence and authority, "It shall be given." That assurance is what makes it so potent. It teaches that life operates on a law of circulation, a spiritual current that moves in cycles of giving and receiving, and when you step into that flow willingly and with faith, you become a magnet for increase. The imagery used in this verse is striking. The phrase, "good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over," comes from the way merchants in ancient times would measure out grain. To ensure the buyer was receiving a fair and abundant portion, the seller would press the grain down, shake it together to make room for more, and then fill it to the point of overflow. This paints a picture of overflowing generosity, not stinginess, and it reflects the way God gives back to us when we act in alignment with divine law. He does not give sparingly. He gives in abundance, in a way that surpasses expectation. This image alone should dissolve the idea of scarcity in the mind of the believer. It reassures us that there is more than enough, that we live in a universe of supply, and that when we step out in faith to give, we set in motion a return that exceeds what we released. The verse also reveals the role of human channels in the circulation of blessings. It says, "Shall men give into your bosom?" This means that while the source of all supply is God, the channels through which that supply reaches you are people, opportunities, and circumstances in your daily life. Too often, people wait for blessings to fall directly from the sky, but the truth is that God works through others. He inspires generosity in someone else to bless you. He arranges meetings that lead to business opportunities. He directs your path to be in the right place at the right time. When you give, you create a ripple that moves through the world and returns to you in unexpected forms. That is why generosity is never a loss. It is always a seed planted that grows into a harvest. Another key aspect of this verse is the principle of measure. For, with the same measure that ye mete withal it shall be measured to you again. This highlights the importance of the spirit with which we give. If we give grudgingly, sparingly, or with fear, the return mirrors that. But if we give joyfully, abundantly, and with trust in divine supply, then the return comes in that same spirit of abundance. It reminds us that God is not mocked. What a person sows, that they will reap. This is not about manipulating the universe with shallow giving in hopes of quick gain. It is about aligning your inner belief with your outer action, showing that you truly trust in the promise of divine provision. When applied to finances, this verse becomes transformative. Many live in constant fear of lack, holding tightly to whatever they have, afraid that if they release it, there will not be enough. Yet that fear itself is what keeps them bound. The verse teaches that release is the very thing that opens the channel for return. Money, like water, must flow to remain fresh. If it is hoarded in fear, it stagnates, but if it circulates in faith, it grows and multiplies. This does not mean reckless giving or ignoring wisdom, but it does mean letting go of the mentality of scarcity and embracing the truth that giving is the pathway to receiving. The verse also applies beyond money. It speaks to every aspect of life. If you give kindness, you receive kindness. If you give encouragement, you receive encouragement. If you give love, love comes back multiplied. The law works universally, not only in finances but in relationships, work, and spiritual growth. It is a divine pattern that ensures balance in the universe, teaching us that what we pour out with faith is returned to us with increase. This is why those who live with open hands, open hearts, and open spirits often experience blessings in unexpected ways. They may not always see the return immediately, but it comes, often in ways greater than they imagined. To live this verse is to live with trust. It is to give when fear says to hold back, to sow when circumstances seem barren, to affirm abundance when the world whispers scarcity. It is to take God at His word and act as if His promise is true. This requires faith, but it also builds faith. Each time you give and experience the return, your confidence in divine law grows stronger. Soon, generosity becomes your natural state. Not forced but flowing, because you know that you are connected to a limitless source. Meditating on this verse daily can change your entire outlook. Speaking it with conviction. Give, and it shall be given unto me, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Plants the truth deep in your subconscious. Affirm it not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. Imagine the blessings flowing into your life. See yourself living in that overflow. And then take the step of giving that puts the law into motion. Each action of faith aligns you more with the rhythm of divine supply, and each step builds momentum toward financial blessings that overflow into every area of your life. When you look at the law of giving revealed in the verse, the natural partner to it is faith, because giving is not only a physical act but a spiritual declaration. Faith is what transforms giving from a mere transaction into a spiritual alignment with divine law. Fear of lack is one of the greatest obstacles people face when it comes to stepping into the flow of abundance. The world conditions us to believe there is never enough, that resources are limited, opportunities are scarce, and if we give away what we have, we will be left with less. This scarcity mindset causes many to cling tightly, to hoard, to withhold, thinking they are protecting themselves from loss. Yet in reality, that very act of withholding cuts off the flow of blessings, because it declares through action that you do not trust in divine supply. Faith and fear cannot coexist, and whichever you choose to live by determines the flow of abundance in your life. Faith, in this context, means believing in the unseen reality of God's promise even when circumstances seem to contradict it. It means trusting that the act of giving, done in love and trust, sets into motion a spiritual law that cannot fail. When you give with fear, your mind and spirit are declaring lack, and lack reproduces itself. When you give with faith, your spirit is declaring abundance, and abundance reproduces itself. That is why it is said, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Your inner state of belief shapes the outer flow of blessings in your life. Faith is not passive hope, it is an active stance of expectation, a confident knowing that your supply is not limited by what you see in your bank account, your job, or your circumstances, but is rooted in the infinite resources of God. Every time you give, you are faced with a choice to act in fear or to act in faith. Fear looks at the amount being released and says, "If I give this, I will not have enough left for myself." Faith looks at the same act and says, "As I give, I align with divine law, and greater blessings are already on their way back to me." This is why many people remain stuck in cycles of financial struggle. They operate from fear, trying to control everything through withholding, and in doing so, they shut off the very channel that would bring increase. The law of giving does not operate through fear, it operates through trust. Faith in divine supply also changes how you see the source of your provision. Fear makes you believe that your job, your clients, or your investments are your only source. But faith shifts your perspective and reminds you that God is the source, and these are simply channels He uses. If one channel closes, another will open because the supply itself is never limited. This truth allows you to give freely without anxiety because you no longer see yourself as dependent on limited means. You begin to understand that as you release what is in your hand, you create space for God to release what is in His hand. Faith is the bridge between your action and His promise. It is also important to recognize that giving in faith requires a joyful spirit. When you give grudgingly, with hesitation or resentment, you are not aligning with abundance but with resistance. Faith is expressed in joy, in gratitude, in the willingness to sow seeds with expectation of a harvest. A farmer who plants seeds does not dig them up the next day in panic, wondering if they will grow. He plants them and trusts the process, knowing the harvest will come in due season. Faith works the same way. You give, and then you rest in trust, knowing the law of circulation is at work and that blessings are already on their way. One of the greatest examples of faith in giving is the widow in the Bible who gave her last 2 coins. From the outside, it looked foolish. She gave all she had, but from the perspective of divine law, she acted in absolute faith. And Jesus declared that she had given more than all the others, because her act was one of pure trust in God's provision. This story shows us that faith is not measured by the size of the gift, but by the spirit behind it. Even small acts of giving, when done with faith, carry the power to unlock great blessings, because the act itself is a declaration that you trust God to supply your needs. Faith also transforms how you see setbacks. Someone who gives in fear may panic if they do not see immediate results, thinking the law does not work. But someone who gives in faith understands that blessings may come in unexpected ways and on divine timing. They hold their confidence steady, knowing that God's promise cannot fail. This patience and steadiness are crucial, because doubt can cancel the flow just as quickly as fear. Faith is not shaken by temporary appearances. It stands firm in the unseen truth that abundance is already present. Living in faith over fear also requires renewing your inner language. The words you speak over your life reveal whether you are rooted in fear or in faith. If you constantly declare, "I never have enough," "Money is always tight," or "I can't afford to give," you are reinforcing the energy of lack. But if you declare, "I live in a universe of abundance," "My giving opens doors to increase," and "God is my source, and I never run dry," you are aligning your spirit with the flow of provision. Words are seeds, and what you affirm consistently becomes your reality. Faith-filled words open the channels for faith-filled outcomes. Ultimately, choosing faith over fear is a daily practice. It is a conscious decision to release the grip of scarcity thinking and step into the truth of divine law. It requires courage to give when the world says hold back, to trust when circumstances say doubt, and to expect abundance when appearances suggest lack. But every time you choose faith, you strengthen that spiritual muscle, and over time, it becomes your natural response. You stop worrying about how or when the blessings will come, and you start living in the assurance that they will come, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You begin to walk in peace, because you know that your life is governed not by fear, but by the unbreakable law of divine supply. Giving is often misunderstood because many people equate it solely with financial contributions, but in truth, the law of giving extends far beyond money. It encompasses every act of generosity that flows from the heart, whether it is time, energy, and compassion, encouragement, or tangible resources. When the Bible says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you," It does not restrict the meaning to currency, it speaks of the greater principle of circulation. Everything you release with love and sincerity multiplies and returns to you in ways that often go beyond what you imagined. The spiritual universe operates on the law of sowing and reaping, and every seed planted, no matter its form, produces a harvest. When you offer your time to listen to someone who feels forgotten or lonely, you are giving something of immense value. That act of compassion does not disappear into the void. It creates ripples that extend outward, often finding their way back to you as kindness, support, or encouragement in your own moment of need. Similarly, when you extend encouragement to someone who is struggling, you are planting seeds of hope in their spirit. That seed can grow into courage for them, and at the same time, it sets in motion a spiritual return of encouragement and strength into your life when you need it most. Money can be lost or spent, but acts of kindness and generosity create treasures stored in the fabric of divine law, always ready to return multiplied to the giver. This principle is evident even in small, seemingly insignificant actions. A smile offered freely, a word of blessing spoken sincerely, or an act of service performed joyfully. All are forms of giving. These gestures may appear minor, yet they are infused with spiritual power because they flow from a heart that is open to abundance. Every time you choose to give rather than withhold, you align yourself with the law of circulation, which ensures that what you release comes back to you in greater measure. Just as water must continue to flow to remain fresh, your resources, gifts, and talents must circulate to stay vibrant. Stagnation comes from holding back, abundance comes from releasing. When it comes to resources like money, food, or possessions, the principle is the same. Giving what you have, even when it seems small, activates the spiritual law of increase. The boy in the Gospels who gave his loaves and fish did not possess much, but what he released in faith became the basis for a miracle of multiplication. His act shows us that it is not the amount that matters, but the willingness to release what you hold. The universe responds not to the size of the gift, but to the spirit in which it is given. A person who gives a little with a heart full of love and faith sets in motion greater blessings than one who gives much with reluctance or pride. Time is another dimension of giving that is often undervalued. In a world where everyone is busy, time becomes one of the most precious commodities we can share. When you choose to invest your time in helping others, supporting loved ones, mentoring, or serving a cause greater than yourself, you are sowing seeds that yield rich returns. The time you give is never wasted. It returns as opportunities, relationships, and blessings that honor the investment you made. Time given in love becomes a magnet for time redeemed in your own life, moments of grace where things align effortlessly, and circumstances fall into place without struggle. Even talents and skills fall under this spiritual principle. When you share your gifts with others instead of hiding them, you not only uplift those around you, but also expand your own capacity. A singer who shares her voice blesses those who hear it, but also strengthens her own gift through use. A teacher who imparts wisdom blesses students, but also deepens his own understanding in the process. Whatever talent you have, withholding it diminishes its power, but releasing it multiplies it. Giving is therefore not just about blessing others. It is about unlocking your own potential by keeping the channels of divine creativity open and flowing. One of the most transformative truths is that giving does not leave you with less. It actually makes you more. The world teaches subtraction. If you give away, you have less left. But the spiritual law teaches multiplication. When you give, you expand your capacity to receive. Every gift given in love is like planting a seed in fertile soil. That seed does not vanish, it grows roots, it expands, and in time, it produces a harvest greater than the original. The more seeds you sow, the greater the harvest you reap. In this way, giving is not a loss, but an investment into the flow of abundance that always returns. The form of giving is less important than the heart behind it. A generous heart sees opportunities everywhere, to help a neighbor, to contribute to a cause, to speak encouragement, to share a meal, to invest in someone's growth. Every one of these actions is a channel through which divine abundance flows. The promise is that whatever form of giving you practice, it comes back to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. This means the return is always greater than what you gave. For the universe does not deal in exact exchanges, but in overflowing multiplication. This principle also transforms the way you experience lack. Even when you feel you do not have much to give, there is always something you can release: your words, your smile, your prayer, your time. Choosing to give even in times of scarcity is a profound act of faith that declares you believe in God's unlimited supply. That declaration sets in motion blessings that far outweigh the little you felt you had. People who live by this law often testify that when they gave in their leanest times, they received abundance in unexpected ways. Opportunities, connections, resources, or breakthroughs that would not have come had they chosen to withhold. Ultimately, the truth is that giving is not just about meeting others' needs. It is about aligning yourself with the eternal flow of abundance. The law ensures that everything you release, in whatever form, returns multiplied. Giving of money, time, talents, or kindness is never wasted, for it weaves itself into the fabric of divine circulation, where nothing is lost and everything is multiplied. This is why the principle is universal and timeless, because when you give, you are not depleting yourself. You are stepping into the very rhythm of God's abundance, and in that rhythm, increase is inevitable. When we hold on tightly to what we have because of fear, we begin to shrink our own capacity to receive. Fear of lack is one of the greatest obstacles to abundance because it creates a mindset of limitation. When a person clings to their resources, their energy, or even their opportunities out of worry that they will not have enough, they cut off the natural flow of divine supply. Fear says, "What if I lose it? What if I don't get it back? What if I run out?" But faith says, "God is my source, and His supply never ends." The very act of giving is a declaration that we trust in that eternal source more than we trust in what we can see with our physical eyes. The truth is that everything we possess is temporary. Money comes and goes, opportunities come and go, even people in our lives come and go. To hold on in desperation to what is passing through our hands is like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. Fear binds and restricts, but faith opens and expands. When we give with trust, we are not simply letting go of something physical. We are letting go of fear and choosing to operate from a higher law. Faith is the bridge that connects our present moment with the limitless supply of God's abundance. By releasing what we have, we make space for what is greater to enter. Trusting God as the ultimate source means shifting our perspective from seeing the world as scarce to seeing it as overflowing. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean and scooping water into a cup. Even if you spill the cup, does the ocean diminish? Of course not. The supply is so vast it cannot be measured, and yet many people live as if their small cup is all that exists. They hoard the water. They guard it. They fear losing it, all the while forgetting that the ocean is right behind them, infinite and ready to refill their cup again and again. In the same way, our resources, our income, our gifts, and our blessings are not the ocean, they are only the cup. God is the ocean, and His supply never runs dry. To trust Him as our source is to stop clinging to the cup and to start living in confidence that no matter what flows out, more will flow in. Faith in God's supply is not passive belief. It is active trust. When you choose to give in moments when fear tells you to hold back, you are acting in faith. Every act of generosity becomes a proclamation. I do not depend on the world's limited systems. I depend on divine abundance. That mindset sets you free from the anxiety of lack because you no longer measure your future by what you have in your hand, but by the promises of God. The Bible repeatedly reassures us that He supplies all our needs, that He opens the windows of heaven, that He gives in overflowing measure. When we align with those promises through faith-filled giving, we align ourselves with a power greater than any economic condition or personal limitation. There is also a spiritual dynamic that occurs when we give with faith rather than fear. Fear closes the heart, but faith opens it. A closed heart cannot receive, but an open heart creates a channel for blessings to flow in. Think of a garden. When the soil is closed, hard, and dry, no seed can penetrate it, and no harvest can grow. But when the soil is soft and open, the seed can enter, take root, and produce abundance. Our faith softens the soil of our lives. When we give with trust, we prepare the ground for blessings to grow, and in time, we reap a harvest greater than the seed we planted. To give out of faith is also to declare independence from the illusion of control. Many people believe that by holding tightly to what they have, they maintain control, but in reality, control rooted in fear is nothing more than bondage. Faith teaches us that we are not meant to control supply. We are meant to trust the source. When we give freely, we acknowledge that our needs are not met by our own grasping, but by divine provision. That acknowledgement creates freedom, because we are no longer weighed down by the anxiety of how much we have or how much we might lose. Instead, we live with the assurance that what we need will always arrive in the right time and in the right way. Fear of lack often keeps people trapped in cycles of struggle. They hesitate to give because they think they cannot afford to, but the very act of withholding keeps them stuck in scarcity. The law of circulation requires movement. Just as the lungs must exhale to inhale, just as the heart must release blood to receive it again, so too must we release what we have to keep the flow of abundance moving. Holding on too tightly interrupts that rhythm, but giving restores it. By trusting God as the source, we participate in the cycle of outflow and inflow that keeps life abundant and free. The beauty of this truth is that every time we give with faith, our trust grows stronger. We begin to notice how the blessings return, sometimes in unexpected ways, an opportunity that arrives at the right time, a relationship that opens new doors, a provision that comes when we least expect it. These experiences reinforce our faith and weaken the grip of fear. The more we trust and give, the more we witness the faithfulness of God, and the less we depend on the illusion of control. Over time, giving with faith becomes natural, a way of life, because we come to understand that we can never outgive God. Ultimately, the decision to trust God as our source is an act of surrender. It is the choice to release fear and to believe that His promises are true. When we give with faith, we step into alignment with the eternal law of abundance that governs creation. The birds do not worry about their food. The flowers do not worry about their clothing, yet they are provided for in beauty and abundance. How much more will we be provided for when we choose to live in faith instead of fear? The measure of our blessing is always tied to the measure of our trust, and when we trust fully, we give freely, and when we give freely, we receive abundantly. Daily affirmations are powerful tools for reshaping the mind and aligning it with divine truth. When we wake each morning and declare words rooted in faith and Scripture, we set the tone for our entire day. The words we speak are not empty phrases, but creative forces that shape the reality around us. Proverbs teaches that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. This means that what we repeatedly declare becomes the foundation of our belief, and what we believe eventually becomes our lived experience. By affirming statements such as, "I give freely, and it is returned to me in abundance. I live in a universe of plenty," Divine supply flows to me, through me, and around me. We are not just reciting nice-sounding words. We are proclaiming spiritual law into existence in our lives. Affirmations work because they train the subconscious mind. Most people spend their lives repeating silent affirmations of fear, lack, and doubt. They say to themselves, "I never have enough money. Things never work out for me. I can't get ahead," and those hidden beliefs direct their actions, choices, and expectations. Without realizing it, they are constantly affirming scarcity. The universe, responding to the energy of those beliefs, mirrors back more of the same. To break that cycle, we must consciously speak words of abundance, even when our circumstances seem to contradict them. Repetition of truth eventually dissolves the power of false beliefs. As we speak abundance daily, we retrain our inner dialogue and begin to expect prosperity as a natural state rather than seeing it as a rare occurrence. When you wake in the morning, your mind is in its most impressionable state. It has not yet been filled with the noise, distractions, and demands of the day. This is the perfect time to plant the seeds of truth. By declaring affirmations in those early moments, you set your consciousness in alignment with divine abundance before the world has a chance to sow doubt. Say them out loud. Feel them in your spirit and imagine the truth of those words as if they are already your reality. Visualization combined with affirmation multiplies their power because the mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically real. If you affirm abundance while picturing it clearly, your subconscious accepts it as truth and begins to direct your energy toward making it manifest. Affirmations also shift the emotional state. Fear of lack creates tension, stress, and worry, which in turn block the flow of inspiration and opportunity. When you affirm divine supply, your energy changes. You feel lighter, more hopeful, more open to possibilities. This change in state influences the way you interact with others and the way others respond to you. For example, if you walk into a business meeting filled with doubt and fear, you project insecurity. But if you enter with the quiet confidence that divine abundance flows through you, you radiate trustworthiness and strength. People sense it. Doors open more easily and opportunities flow. Your affirmations are not only words, they are vibrations that affect the way the world mirrors back to you. Another reason daily affirmations are essential is because they keep your focus fixed on truth instead of appearances. Circumstances can deceive us. You may open your bank account and see a small balance. You may look at unpaid bills or unmet needs and feel overwhelmed. But affirmations remind you that appearances are temporary, while divine law is eternal. By repeating, "I live in a universe of plenty," you anchor yourself in the reality that God's supply is infinite, regardless of what numbers appear on a screen. This keeps you from sinking into despair and helps you stay aligned with the expectancy of provision. Expectancy is faith in action, and it draws what you need toward you. Consistency is key. Saying affirmations once in a while is like watering a seed once and expecting it to grow. The soil of the subconscious requires daily nurturing. Repetition drives the truth deep into the mind until it becomes second nature. Over time, the affirmations stop feeling like something you are forcing yourself to say and start becoming your natural thought pattern. When that shift occurs, your entire outlook changes. Instead of waking up worrying about how things will work out, you wake up expecting miracles, opportunities, and provision. Your inner dialogue changes from one of fear to one of faith, and that inner shift inevitably produces outer change. Affirmations are also declarations of gratitude. By saying, "Divine supply flows to me, through me, and around me," you are thanking God in advance for blessings that are already on their way. Gratitude is a magnet for abundance because it acknowledges that the source of provision is not limited by time. When you affirm as if it has already been given, you step into the energy of already receiving, which accelerates manifestation. Faith does not wait for evidence to give thanks. Faith gives thanks in advance, and that act of trust opens the door wider for blessings to arrive. The more you practice affirmations, the more they become woven into your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone struggling to get by and begin seeing yourself as a child of God, heir to divine abundance. Identity shapes reality. If you see yourself as limited, you will live limited. If you see yourself as aligned with infinite supply, you will live in overflow. The words you speak about yourself are not merely descriptive, they are creative. They shape the way you view yourself. And how you view yourself determines what you allow yourself to receive. Affirmations should not only be spoken in the morning, but throughout the day, especially when fear tries to creep back in. Each time doubt rises, counter it with truth. If worry whispers, "You won't have enough," answer immediately, "My supply is unlimited, and all my needs are met." Speak it firmly, as if you are reminding your soul of what it already knows. Over time, this becomes automatic, and fear loses its power to control you. Affirmations train your spirit to stand strong in the face of temporary appearances, keeping you anchored in divine law instead of worldly conditions. In the evening, as you prepare to sleep, affirmations also play a crucial role. The subconscious mind processes thoughts during sleep, so the last words you say before rest carry power. By affirming abundance at night, you send your subconscious to work on truths that will shape your reality even as you rest. It is like planting seeds before the night rains, knowing that by morning, growth has already begun beneath the surface. When you awaken, you continue watering those seeds with more affirmations, and day by day, you witness the harvest of financial blessings, peace of mind, and spiritual assurance unfolding in your life. Expectation is the silent partner of faith, the invisible magnet that draws blessings into manifestation. Many people pray, give, and even affirm. Yet they do so with an undertone of doubt, waiting anxiously to see if anything will happen. This hesitation weakens the flow of abundance, because divine law responds not to hesitation, but to certainty. When you expect blessings with unwavering belief, you align yourself with the rhythm of heaven's provision. Expectation is not wishful thinking or desperate hope. It is the confident assurance that what has been promised will surely arrive. Just as a farmer plants seeds and expects a harvest, so too must we sow our faith and expect abundance to appear. Without expectation, even the best intentions can wither, because it is expectation that waters the seed of faith and keeps it alive until the harvest comes. The power of expectation lies in the energy it produces. Desperation is heavy, filled with worry and fear, and it creates resistance. Expectation, on the other hand, is light and joyful. When you expect good things, you feel calm, assured, and even excited about what is to come. This state of being is magnetic. It draws opportunities, people, and resources into your path. Think of the times you have expected something joyful, like the arrival of a long-awaited guest or the fulfillment of a promise. That expectancy fills the atmosphere with anticipation, and everything in you adjusts to prepare for the arrival. In the same way, when you live in expectation of divine provision, your actions, thoughts, and even your body language shift to prepare for abundance, and that preparation creates an opening for it to manifest. Expectation also sharpens focus. When you believe with certainty that blessings are on the way, you begin to notice possibilities you might have overlooked in the past. Your awareness expands, and you see doors where before you only saw walls. A person who expects failure looks at a challenge and says, "It can't be done." A person who expects abundance looks at the same challenge and sees an opportunity for growth, learning, or provision. The outer world may be the same, but the inner lens of expectation filters it differently, highlighting what aligns with your belief. This is why two people can walk into the same room, face the same circumstances, and yet experience entirely different outcomes. One expects good and receives it, the other expects disappointment and attracts it. Living in expectation requires persistence, especially when circumstances appear contrary. It is easy to expect blessings when everything looks promising, but true faith holds its expectation even when the evidence suggests otherwise. Imagine a woman who is expecting a child. She does not wake each morning wondering if the baby might arrive. Then dismiss the idea if she doesn't feel movement. She knows it is coming even before there are outward signs. She prepares clothes, a nursery, and makes room in her home because expectation leads to preparation. In the same way, when we expect financial blessings, we prepare ourselves mentally, spiritually, and practically for their arrival. We do not shrink back in fear when challenges arise. Instead, we stand firm, knowing that what is unseen is already on its way. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen expectation is through gratitude. Gratitude transforms vague hope into confident expectation by acknowledging that the blessing is already real in the spiritual realm. When you give thanks in advance, you demonstrate faith that what you seek is already yours. Instead of pleading, "I hope my needs will be met," you affirm with gratitude, "Thank you, Lord, that my needs are already supplied." That shift in language and emotion creates a vibration of certainty, which fuels expectation. Gratitude opens the door wider for abundance to enter because it places you in harmony with the flow of divine provision. Expectation also influences behavior in subtle but profound ways. A person who expects lack will hold back, avoid risk, and act with fear, which often results in missed opportunities. A person who expects abundance moves boldly, takes inspired action, and is willing to invest time, energy, and resources because they trust in a positive outcome. This difference in behavior creates entirely different realities. Expectation not only attracts blessings, it equips you to act in ways that allow those blessings to manifest. In this sense, expectation is both a spiritual principle and a practical one. It changes your vibration while also changing your decisions, and the combination of the two multiplies results. Doubt is the greatest enemy of expectation. Doubt whispers that the promise is too good to be true, that others may receive blessings but not you, that you are not worthy of abundance. These lies are designed to weaken faith and cancel expectation. To overcome doubt, you must replace it with truth. Every time doubt arises, counter it with words of certainty. My blessings are on their way. Divine supply cannot fail. I expect and receive good in every area of my life. Repetition of truth silences the voice of doubt and strengthens expectation. Over time, the inner dialogue shifts and certainty becomes natural. Another aspect of expectation is patience. Many abandon their expectation too quickly, like pulling up seeds to see if they have sprouted. Blessings do not always manifest instantly, they unfold in divine timing. Expectation is not about rushing or demanding, but about holding steady with calm assurance until the harvest arrives. Patience keeps the soil fertile while faith does its quiet work beneath the surface. The one who gives up too soon misses the blessing that was already on its way. True expectation rests in trust, knowing that divine law never fails and that every good seed produces a harvest in its proper season. Expectation is not passive, it is active and dynamic. When you expect abundance, you do not sit idly by but move forward in faith. You make plans, take steps, and prepare for growth, just as a farmer waters and tends the soil in expectation of crops. Expectation fuels consistent action, and consistent action, guided by faith, draws results. Those who expect failure often do nothing or sabotage their own efforts, while those who expect success keep pressing forward, knowing the breakthrough is near. Expectation provides the fuel that keeps you moving even when the finish line is not yet visible. Ultimately, expectation is the bridge between belief and manifestation. Belief says, "It is possible." Expectation says, "It is certain." Belief opens the door, but expectation walks through it, and inhabits the blessing as if it has already arrived. The universe, attuned to the energy of certainty, responds in kind, sending opportunities, ideas, and resources that align with your expectation. When you live each day with unwavering expectancy, you become a magnet for prosperity, health, and joy, because you are no longer questioning whether blessings will come. You are only preparing to receive them. Consistency is the golden thread that ties every act of faith, every word of affirmation, and every seed of generosity together until they form a pattern strong enough to unlock true prosperity. Many people start with enthusiasm, giving once or twice, speaking affirmations for a short while, or practicing gratitude sporadically, but they fail to continue when results do not appear immediately. Spiritual law is unchanging, but just like natural law, it requires persistence to reveal its full effect. No farmer sows one day and harvests the next. He sows, waters, tends, and waits in faith, trusting the process of growth until the harvest matures. Likewise, in the realm of financial blessings, consistency is what keeps the soil fertile and the faith alive. It is through daily, unwavering alignment with divine principles that abundance becomes not an occasional event but a natural state of being. Consistency in generosity is one of the most powerful aspects of this principle. Giving once may bring a blessing, but giving as a lifestyle builds a continuous flow of return. When giving becomes part of who you are, whether money, time, or kindness, you create a rhythm of circulation that mirrors the heartbeat of creation itself. Life is always circulating. The breath you exhale makes room for the next inhale. Rivers flow to the ocean, which evaporates to form rain. Seeds fall to the ground and spring back as harvest. In the same way, consistent giving ensures that your life remains connected to this divine circulation, where nothing stagnates but everything flows. Those who give occasionally may taste blessing, but those who give consistently live in blessing. Words, too, must be spoken consistently to carry their power. Affirmations are not magic incantations to be whispered once in desperation and forgotten. They are spiritual reminders that rewire the subconscious and align the mind with divine truth. When you speak affirmations daily, morning after morning, you build new patterns of thought that replace old habits of fear and lack. Consistency here is vital because the mind has been trained for years to dwell on doubt and worry. One or two affirmations will not uproot decades of scarcity thinking, but daily, persistent declarations will. Over time, the words sink deep into the soil of the soul and produce fruits of confidence, expectation, and manifestation. Without consistency, affirmations are like watering a seed once and then abandoning it. But with consistency, they become the steady stream that brings life. Consistency also applies to gratitude. A thankful heart once in a while may bring a moment of peace, but a daily practice of gratitude transforms the entire atmosphere of a person's life. Gratitude is not merely a response to what has already appeared, but a declaration of faith for what is yet unseen. When practiced consistently, gratitude trains the mind and spirit to focus on abundance instead of lack, to expect good instead of fearing evil. This mental state becomes the breeding ground for prosperity because it harmonizes with divine law. Gratitude held today, tomorrow, and every day thereafter builds a permanent shift in perspective that opens the door wider and wider for blessings to flow. Sporadic gratitude produces fleeting joy, but consistent gratitude produces lasting abundance. Consistency is also about maintaining faith in the face of challenges. Anyone can believe when things are going well, but true prosperity flows to those who remain steady even when storms arise. Imagine a sailor who only trusts the compass when the skies are clear but abandons it when clouds gather. Such a sailor will be lost. In the same way, one who practices faith only when life looks promising will drift aimlessly in times of trial. Consistency means holding to the compass of divine promise regardless of outward conditions. It is in those moments of trial, When fear whispers and doubt presses in, that consistency in faith matters most. Each time you choose faith over fear, you strengthen the muscles of expectation and prepare yourself for greater blessing. The beauty of consistency is that it builds momentum. At first, daily acts of giving, affirming, or gratitude may feel small, almost insignificant. Yet each act adds weight to the scale until eventually the balance tips and blessings pour forth. This is why some people suddenly experience what looks like overnight abundance. It is not overnight, but the cumulative result of consistent practice. Just as a stonecutter strikes a rock repeatedly with no visible change until one final strike splits it open, so too does consistent faith build unseen pressure until the moment of breakthrough. Those who quit too early never see the result, while those who remain steady experience the full reward. Consistency also cultivates trust in divine timing. When you act in alignment with spiritual law every day, you no longer obsess over when or how the blessing will arrive. You know it is coming because you are living in harmony with the principle that guarantees return. This steady trust removes desperation and replaces it with calm assurance. Each day of consistent practice reinforces the belief that you are cared for, guided, and supplied. Over time, this steady rhythm becomes second nature. You no longer have to force faith because faith has become part of who you are. Another dimension of consistency is integrity. When your actions match your beliefs day after day, you develop inner strength and authenticity. A person who gives today and hoards tomorrow, or who speaks words of abundance but lives in fear, creates inner conflict that hinders manifestation. Consistency removes this conflict by aligning words, thoughts, and deeds into harmony. Over time, this alignment radiates outward, drawing blessings in greater measure. Integrity in consistency creates a magnetic presence that others notice, opportunities gravitate toward, and blessings naturally surround. Ultimately, consistency turns principles into lifestyle. Giving, affirming, expressing gratitude, expecting blessings. When done consistently, these practices cease to be isolated acts and become part of your very identity. You no longer think of generosity as something you do. It becomes who you are. You no longer remind yourself to speak affirmations. They flow naturally. You no longer force gratitude. It becomes your default posture. And when these practices become identity, prosperity becomes inevitable. Divine law responds to who you are, not just what you occasionally do, and consistency is the bridge that transforms scattered effort into lasting identity. Those who experience true prosperity are not always the most talented, the most educated, or the most gifted. They are the ones who remain consistent. They show up daily, align with divine law, give freely, speak life, and express gratitude without ceasing. Over time, these consistent acts form a spiritual compound interest, multiplying blessings beyond measure. Consistency is not glamorous, and it is not always easy, but it is the secret ingredient that ensures prosperity does not come as a fleeting moment, but as a permanent reality. Abundance is not something distant or reserved for a chosen few, nor is it a rare event that happens randomly. It is a natural state woven into the very design of creation, available to every person who dares to believe and align themselves with divine law. The scriptures remind us again and again that God is the source of all provision and that His supply is limitless. Yet many live as if they are cut off from this supply, waiting for a miracle or hoping for luck, when in truth abundance is already available, waiting to flow into their lives. The key is not to chase after blessings, but to open the channels through which blessings naturally come. And those channels are faith, generosity, gratitude, and expectancy. Abundance exists in the unseen before it ever appears in the seen. When a farmer plants seeds, the harvest already exists in potential form. He does not doubt whether wheat or corn will grow. He knows the laws of nature guarantee it. In the same way, financial blessings exist in the spiritual realm the moment you act in harmony with divine law. the promise of Luke 6:8. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, is not conditional upon chance but upon obedience. The supply is already there, and your giving, your faith, and your expectation act as the key to unlock it. Many people misunderstand abundance, imagining it as something scarce or limited, as if there were only a small amount to be shared. But divine abundance is infinite. Just as sunlight cannot be exhausted no matter how many people stand under it. The mistake comes when people believe their blessing depends on another person losing theirs, as if wealth and provision were a fixed pie to be divided. That belief creates competition, fear, and greed, which in turn blocks the flow of blessings. Abundance, however, is not subtraction but multiplication. The more love you give, the more it grows. The more generosity you show, the more opportunities open. The more gratitude you express, the more reasons you find to be grateful. This truth reveals that abundance is not random luck, but the inevitable result of living in alignment with spiritual principles. Abundance also requires a shift in perception. Too often, people live in a state of lack because they only focus on what they do not have. They look at bills, debts, or unmet desires, and their attention magnifies lack. The spiritual law is that whatever you focus on expands. So, focusing on lack multiplies lack. On the other hand, those who choose to focus on what they already have, however small, create expansion. Gratitude magnifies blessings because it trains the heart to see provision everywhere. When you begin to notice the food on your table, the roof over your head, the kindness of a stranger, or even the breath in your lungs, you align yourself with abundance. From that alignment, more flows because you have tuned into the frequency of prosperity. Faith is another vital key to realizing that abundance is already available. Faith does not wait until evidence appears to believe. Faith believes before evidence shows. Just as a seed must be believed to contain a harvest before it sprouts, financial blessings must be trusted as already present in potential form before they manifest. Faith does not beg God to provide as if he were reluctant. Faith thanks God in advance, knowing his nature is to bless, to provide, and to overflow. The person who lives by faith walks as though blessings are already secured, and this assurance draws the unseen into the seen. It is not the uncertainty of if, but the certainty of when. One of the most liberating truths is that abundance flows not because of human effort alone, but because of divine design. A river does not strain to flow, it flows because that is its nature. A seed does not struggle to grow, it grows because that is its nature. Likewise, blessings flow not through desperate striving, but through resting in the assurance of divine order. This does not mean passivity, but rather cooperative action, doing what is within your power while trusting God to do the rest. Giving generously, working diligently, speaking positively, and remaining expectant are the actions within your control, and they activate the law of divine supply. Abundance also shows itself in unexpected forms. Financial blessings may come as money, but they may also appear as opportunities, connections, ideas, or resources. Too often people miss their blessing because they expect it only in cash. Yet God's provision is creative and multifaceted. A chance meeting with someone who opens doors for you, a sudden idea that leads to profit, a gift that saves you money, or even an inner peace that allows you to see clearly. All of these are forms of abundance. Recognizing them requires awareness and gratitude. When you understand that abundance is already flowing, you stop limiting it to one form and remain open to receive in many ways. Another key aspect is consistency in aligning with this truth. Abundance is already available, but it must be continually affirmed through daily practice. This means regularly declaring words of faith, practicing gratitude, giving without fear, and expecting return. Just as you do not eat once and expect to live forever, You cannot practice spiritual principles once and expect lasting abundance. The continual practice keeps the channels open and trains your mind to remain aligned with divine law. Over time, this consistent alignment becomes natural, and prosperity becomes less of a pursuit and more of a way of life. Living in abundance also means releasing fear and scarcity thinking. Fear tells you to hold back, to hoard, to cling tightly to what little you have. But this only creates stagnation. Imagine water held in a stagnant pool. It grows stale, while water that flows remains fresh. In the same way, holding tightly in fear keeps blessings from moving, while generosity keeps them alive and multiplying. Trusting that abundance is already available allows you to release fear and participate in the divine flow. Ultimately, the truth is simple yet profound. Abundance is not waiting to be created, it is already present. It exists in the promises of God, in the laws of giving and receiving, in the flow of gratitude and faith. To unlock it, you do not need to chase after wealth or beg for provision. You need only to align your thoughts, words, and actions with the spiritual laws already in place. As you do so consistently, you discover that blessings are not something you wait for. They are something you walk into, already flowing, already multiplying, already more than enough.